Hello everyone, my name is Lisa and I'm the Viet vegan because I'm Viet and I'm vegan, and today's video is sponsored by Pfizer to create more awareness about eczema and atopic dermatitis. If you've been around my channel before, you have probably been made aware that I have eczema. You might have seen it on my hands, on my skin, on my face. It is a chronic skin condition that has affected me for my entire life. It's been something that happens a lot in my family. My mom has it, my grandma has it, my aunt has it, my cousins have it. Some of them have grown out of it, some of them haven't. I haven't grown out of it. So I'm talking to you today about eczema and my journey, what I've done to sort of like figure out my healing journey. I'm not gonna go into the details of my personal treatment plan, but this is just a video to create more awareness about what eczema is. And if you have eczema or if you know someone who has eczema, I just want to give you some insight as to like what they might be going through, some things that have helped me. I feel like it's pretty obvious, but I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to be giving you any medical advice. I'm just going to be sharing my experience and like the different things that I've done to figure out eczema along my journey. Bottom line is, if you have eczema or if you have any sort of medical condition, please do not rely on an influencer. Any influencer or creator's experience may not be the same as your own. While I prepare my morning iced matcha latte, let's talk about how my eczema generally manifests. You might have seen my hands being cracked, dry, red, or swollen in different videos. Depending on the stage of a flare-up, my mobility can either be completely gone where I can barely move my hands from the cracked skin and hives, or my hands feel incredibly dry and cracked and just sting with any exposure to irritants. Usually a flare-up will last between a week to a few weeks depending on how well I've been able to manage it. If it's from something that I've eaten that triggers my flare-up, it'll probably last about a week. Now that I've gotten a better handle of my triggers, my flare-ups now are usually stress-related and can last however long that stressful thing in my life can be. But I'll talk more about how I manage my stress later on. First, let's make some breakfast. Lately, I've been having my favorite lazy savory oatmeal, which is bruschetta oats. I do 1 part steel cut oats, 1 part store-bought bruschetta, 2 parts water, and then I cook on the stove on like medium low to medium for about 15 minutes until the oats are completely softened and cooked through. I generally prefer savory breakfast, and I often will just make like a noodle dish or oatmeal so it has lots of fiber and protein to start off with my day. I like to top it with a little bit of nutritional yeast and some black pepper, and that is my breakfast. Very filling, very savory, very full of fiber. The rest of my morning and beginning of my afternoon is usually spent working on whatever I need to do that day. Sometimes it's editing, recipe testing, or cleaning up after a bunch of work in the kitchen. Sometimes it can be kind of hard to function with eczema on my hands. My mobility is sometimes limited, but on a good day where my eczema isn't acting up, I'm editing, I'm cooking, and cleaning with either rubber gloves or nitrile gloves to reduce how much hand washing or irritation that my hands will get. Throughout my day, I make sure I'm hydrating well and eating a fairly balanced diet. The more fruit and veggies, the better in my experience. Unfortunately, I'm allergic to a lot of food, so I make sure to avoid whatever triggers my eczema. I've been working with my doctors lately to narrow down some allergies since I have trigger foods like nuts, alcohol, kiwis, or raw celery, and those definitely aggravate my eczema. Aside from eating or skin contact with my triggers, stress is probably one of the biggest triggers for my eczema. I've learned over the years how I need to manage my stress, and things will just sort of crop up that are out of my control. But lately I've been finding that regular exercise has helped a lot with managing my stress, so we got a folding treadmill for 30-minute walking sessions, ideally every day, but realistically ends up being every other day, to help tackle both heart health and mental health. There unfortunately isn't a cure for eczema or atopic dermatitis, but I've worked with my doctor to reduce the impacts of my symptoms and figured out my triggers. Eczema triggers vary from person to person, and it can be difficult to narrow them down at first, but my eczema flare-ups now happen way less frequently and affect me way less than they did before I took the time to identify my triggers. After I get whatever work I need to do done and out of the way, it's usually dinner time. So dinners for me change a little bit every day depending on the mood, but usually I try to incorporate a lot of vegetables, some sort of protein, and definitely some sort of rice and or noodles. Today I'm having rice. My eczema has been okay enough for me to make rice without needing gloves to wash it. So I made a bowl with a mishmash of ingredients from bibimbap and sushi. So I've got avocado, some stir-fried mushrooms, kimchi, cucumber, and a chickpea egg scramble that I seasoned with vegan fish sauce. So I'm topping that with soy sauce, spicy mayo, panko crumbs, and toasted sesame seeds, and it was a very delicious bowl. I used to avoid treatments for a long time as a vegan because I was conscious of the amount of animal testing that happens in the pharmaceutical industry. But I think that over time, there's a lot of rhetoric in the vegan community about how we shouldn't use XYZ medical treatment because it's been tested on animals. Someone who is vegan, who uses medication that is tested on animals, to call them not vegan or to call them a hypocrite or like to shame them for using medical treatments because they've been tested on animals before, I think is like pretty ableist, because it's like, if you can exist in a life without using medical treatments, I think that's amazing for you. You know, I'm really happy for you. If you don't have to do that, I would love to not have things in my life that are tested on animals. With things like makeup, for example, I always choose cruelty-free products. There's work that you can do if you want to avoid animal testing. You can talk to your local governments. You can try to advocate for less animal testing or that kind of thing. But I think where people are currently in the way that we live our lives, people should be taking medication if they need it. The definition of veganism is as far as possible and practical. And for me, it is not possible without medical treatment for my eczema. So I think that's something that everyone needs to consider, especially when they're advocating for veganism. That is a day in my life as someone who's living with eczema. Not every day is the same, and a lot of times I'll get eczema flare-ups without my control, just because something stressful in my life will happen and I just will have to deal with it. And I've had to learn to just go with the flow, figure out what works best for me. My life is sort of ruled by things to prevent my eczema from flaring up. And if it does flare up, then I just have to accept that, like, you know, my skin will take time to heal. There's no magical cure. It's something that will be a part of my life forever. It's an ongoing process. Your skin will heal in due time. There's no magical cure that will, you know, next day your skin will be magically better. You just kind of have to like figure out what your skin needs and what your skin wants and figure that out. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you again to Pfizer for sponsoring this video about creating more awareness about eczema. I hope you find what you're looking for and I hope you find some help. Thank you so much for watching and I hope you have a delicious day. Bye.